All right, welcome back to the Seven Figure Annuity Sales Podcast. Caleb North here, and I'm sure that those of you that have been tuning in are probably thrilled to know it's not only going to be my voice you're hearing today, because we've got Chad is with us.
I think I'm a little nicer now, though. There's so many comments I already could have made, but I'm just going to be a nice guy today. So
Turned over a new leaf.
yeah, I did. Brush with death
Oh,
makes you a little humbler. So, but what are we talking about today?
Man, I've thought about one of the things that I think you are particularly skilled in, and it's when you have cases where there's competition involved. You're up against another agent, you're up against an advisor even that's trying to retain funds, you're up against a big brokerage firm, an investment firm. And I think about some of these cases that you've won over the years, and it's like against all odds, right? Winning some of these. And then I see agents that at the first instance of opposition to what they're doing, they don't even know how to handle it. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to win the case. And I'm thinking, man, that's like a normal walk in the park case for Chad.
Yeah.
If that agent were to come up against some of the things you've dealt with, it'd be a fish out of water. And it's not to knock agents. I just think most of the time agents don't know how to compete for the business. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today, is just getting into your head a little bit in that regard.
Yeah. Well, I automatically think of David and Goliath. David didn't beat Goliath because he went up to Goliath first. He already had killed the lion and the bear. He had trained ahead of time. And so training for the smaller things. Now, to me, a lion and a bear would not necessarily be a smaller thing. I'd be like, because all he probably had was a rock or a staff or whatever.
Right.
But, when you deal with cases that are very challenging, they're not challenging to me because I worked my way up to that. Over the years,
Right.
I've been very intentional in my study, very intentional in how I present things, and I don't make mistakes because it's literally now secondhand. Once you learn how to walk, rarely do you stumble unless you hit something. But if you're just walking on a flat surface, it's no big deal to you. It's just a normal thing. So it's funny you say this. Last night, I just had a very challenging client in a very good way. He's an actuary. So that's what he does. He's an actuary for an insurance company. And so he's just asking all these questions, and I just have all the answers. And he's like going, man, I've never had someone I ran into that I could actually challenge the conversation. I said, I love cases like this because a lot of times I go to the point and it's very simplistic and I just present what needs to be done. But he's literally challenging every little thing I'm coming across. I did a full-blown income plan with him. And when you look at that, he was very impressed because he's going, you have a perfect solution for my problem. And I didn't even come up with the way that you did it. And so, you look at these cases, it's not something that you can instantly get to that situation or that position to where you can handle those. Have there been times in the past where I had to go, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. I will need to find out. So when I simply, then I learned that. It's like one of my favorite things about GPT right now is I'm now a tax expert. I'm now a legal expert. Not that I will ever tell a client that, but they'll ask me a question and I'm like, man, I don't know that answer. So I go, in this state, in this county, here's his question. And I always lead with, I'm not a tax expert, but here's what I found out. And you still check with your accountant or CPA to make sure it's the right answer. But you have to be intentional in how you study. It's like, I know people that take our training program and they go through it once and then they never go back to it again. I even go back through our training program. I even evaluate something I did 10 or 15 years ago. There's analogies like, for example, the sledding analogy. I haven't used that in a long time. And now I live in Colorado. I should get back to using that analogy. So it's this plethora of tools you have in your toolbox that no matter the situation, I mean, you guys know we just moved into a new house. And there are so many tools that I can have access to in my toolbox to where I don't think I've ran into a situation yet where I haven't had the tool that I've needed.
Right.
But there are some tools that I know I'm going to have to get with future projects. So I'm already going to learn how to use those tools before I actually buy it. So a long answer to that is yes, I win a lot of cases because I know the scenario. I have a solution to their problem, knowing which product is best, knowing how index strategies work, knowing how index or long-term care benefits work, a lifetime benefit. You have to know that, because one of the number one things that's going to get you a sale is when you actually flow very smooth. If you're like, I don't know, I'm not sure. Boom, you've lost the confidence that client should have in you. And one of the things I
Absolutely.
actually do right now is, if somebody started to doubt my ability, I will actually, and I'm on a Zoom, I'll actually Zoom over to my awards cabinet and I'll say, hey, I've won these, 38 awards over the past, really about 18 years, 17 years probably. And the reality it comes down to is I would not have won these awards if I didn't know what I was doing. And I'm not bragging by any means. I've studied my tail off to try and know these products inside and out, and off of the top of my head, be able to recall what you need and not have to sit there and go and research it. Because I'll tell you what, if you ever talk to your broker or your banker and you present a case and they have to say, you know what, let me get back to you, come back to me in the next meeting, they do not know what they're doing. Because
Right.
I can tell you off the top of my head, the top 10 income riders that will provide income for life without market risk, and I don't need to go do research. So if they're going to do research, number one, either they're not the expert there or there's no expert there. And so, as you can imagine, if you go into an appointment with constant answers and hard objections that you can overcome, then they're going to have a lot of confidence in your ability.
Yeah, that's really good. I think too, another layer aside from just even knowing what you're positioning is knowing your competition. I mean, if you think
100%.
about it in military terms, how much easier is it to go win a battle when you don't just know your troops and your military and what you have at your
Mm-hmm.
disposal weaponry wise, but you also know the enemy per se,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you can look at a client situation and you can see, oh, they've got everything
Mm-hmm.
in some kind of risk investment right
Mm-hmm.
now, or they come back and they say, oh, I've got an advisor, I've got a broker, or you're dealing with an agent
Mm-hmm.
that's positioning an alternative annuity product that could be a solution. It's just not as good as your solution.
Mm-hmm.
When you know the alternative
Mm-hmm.
option that the
Mm-hmm.
client has, and you're able to speak to why that alternative option is not a better option than what you have, and
Mm-hmm.
why what you have is better for what they need
Mm-hmm.
than that alternative option, you shoot that down a lot of times. And I think agents get themselves into positions where maybe even they know what their product is, they
Mm-hmm.
can explain that. But as soon as a client brings
A
the
variable
product that another
annuity.
agent
Yeah.
recommended, they fall apart. They're like, oh, they buy into the client's perception that this other thing works just as well. The
Yeah.
client says, oh, I've got a broker, I'm taking RMDs and following the 4% rule, whatever. It's like, oh, okay. The agent doesn't know how to address it or combat that.
Mm-hmm. And there's a couple things too. You have to know economics, both macro and micro. You have to really study that well. You also have to study psychology because you need to know how to relate to that particular client. And I even study medicine. Why? Because if I start to sense someone doesn't have the ability of understanding, I need to know what the possible ailment is. And there's times where I've had to say, hey, can we bring your daughter in? Can we bring your son in? So things like that, let them know how much I'm trying to protect them. But I got some things that I use right now that have been very effective. For example, I'll say, what do you think of the stock market? Oh, well, it's done really well for me. The stock market is so broken, it's not even funny. And what do you mean? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, commodities, crypto, real estate are all following the same pattern. That is an impossibility. That tells you only one thing: there's massive market manipulation. The other thing you look at too that's very bad right now is you have gold and copper going up at the same time. That's an economic impossibility. It's not supposed to happen, because when gold goes up, copper's supposed to go down. When copper goes up, gold's supposed to go down, because a healthy environment means that copper is strong. And that means because there's building, they're building things, and copper's used a ton in building. So copper's going up. Well, then that means people are more confident. So gold goes down, because gold actually is more of a fear-based investment, a fear or greed-based investment. So if you're scared, gold's going to go up because you've been buying gold because you're worried about the economy. But that also means manufacturing is down, of buildings and homes and things like that. So copper is going down. So for gold and copper to be going up at the same time, once again, tells you there's a massive break in the system. And so when you bring information like that, then people are very confident in what you know about economics. And I always make a point, when I study economist, I don't pick someone who's Republican, Democrat. They don't promote stocks, bonds, mutual funds. They don't promote annuities. They just study numbers. Numbers have no political affiliation or no emotion. They either work or they don't.
Yeah, and I think that all the different asset classes moving and performing in a similar trend line, it also goes to speak to the issue of diversification, right? It's like historically, people have been able to diversify their portfolio as a risk mitigation tool. But if all the different asset classes are following approximately the same trend line, you don't really have effective diversification able to occur. It's like if they're all going up at the same time, then when they start going down, in theory, they should all start going down at the same time, in which case, what has your diversification done? Almost nothing. So I do think that scenario in and of itself can lend to, okay, so what do you have that actually protects you from those losses when they come? Like in the past, if you've been able to offset your stock risk by bonds, but now they're following a similar trend, what happens? If you've offset by commodities or real estate, but now they're following the same trends, what happens if we take a hit? It's like now we've got products, our indexed annuities, that are able to not only allow that upside performance when the market is performing positively, but when it falls, it's truly accomplishing the attempt that diversification does by just eliminating the loss altogether. And so I think that does a couple things for you. It does help build your expertise, but at the same time, it helps paint a case for why you probably seriously want to consider one of these for downside protection.
Well, I look at this, the gentleman I talked to yesterday was just the actuarial. He's 59 years old. His wife is 56. I can count on a couple handfuls of people that have been able to retire at 59 and 56. With the lifestyle he's able to maintain, and not only maintain, continue to build. But one of the things I had a conversation with him on was literally, he goes, well, I made 30% last year. I said, here, sir, let me tell you this. Vegas was built on losers. And they're built on the people that win the jackpot or win a lot, and then they still keep sitting at that slot machine and keep putting in, and the money's gone. So right now, if you use the money that you've gained, you can retire very healthily. If you had a 20% drop in the market, that wipes out the savings we're using, it wipes out some of the income we're using. So literally, you have to decide, do you keep sitting in that chair, or do you walk away with your winnings? And, that statement, Tim, really impacted him. Once again, the broker is not going to tell you to walk away from the slot machine, because they're promoting the slot machine in your retirement. And so how are they going to tell you to leave? And then the other thing you look at too is when you talk to your client and educate them, then they go back to their broker and they goes, well, we just need to diversify. Well, you've already come that in the first appointment to where they can go to the broker and go, but how do I diversify when stocks, bonds, mutual funds, commodities, real estate, and crypto are all following the same pattern? And that the broker's not going to have an answer for that, because that's an absolute fact right now. So once again, we go back to confidence in your ability, presenting information that's factual, not opinionated, And then you look at the thing of what's best for them. If you create a comfort level, for example, let's use this. If I was doing a trust fall and I had a trust fall, you know how where you cross your arms and you fall backwards, and Josh is behind me. I know Josh is going to catch me. I have no doubt in my mind. So I'm going to do that. If I have you behind me, I am not falling backwards, even if you paid me $1 million, because I know the chances of you trying to catch me is not going to be there. So when they look at that, they're really doing a trust fall with their money.
Right.
They're going, who's going to catch me and keep me safe?
I really like that analogy too, and we've used it before, the sitting at the casino table. And in my head, I just thought of a kind of another way to explain that is, imagine you walk into a casino and you have one table, it's blackjack, that, or, you could ask them whatever their favorite game is. Maybe it's roulette, maybe it's craps, whatever. I like blackjack, so I'm going to use that example. So they walk into the casino, there's 2 blackjack tables. One of the blackjack tables is traditional blackjack. You put your, bet out there. If you win, you double it. You get all of the gains. But if you lose all of it. The other table is blackjack. But when you win, you only get half of the gains. But when you lose, you don't give up any of your chips. Which table would you play, and which one would you play the longest?
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, well, I'd play the second table. Of course. Of course. Yeah. And if you did play the first table and you were looking really, really good, what would be what would you do if you're sitting there at the first table where it's all the gain, all the loss. But then all of a sudden you look up and you see that other table, you look down at your chips and you've doubled your money, tripled your money. Are you going to keep playing that table, or are you going to go move that into the other table that you're limited on the upside, but you're eliminating the downside? Of course.
Well, the thing you have to look at is when we have leads, and we have to remember this is where you have to have the confidence of someone who is an expert. If they reached out to you, they reached out to you for a reason. So they're, no matter what, whether it's a little 10% concern or it's 100% concern, there is something there that triggered their interest in what you have. And the problem is, agents often think, especially when they see a lead with 25,000 or 50,000, they automatically think, oh, this person doesn't have any money. I've lost count on the number of people that said they had 25,000. They end up having $1 million or $1.5 million, $2 million. One of my biggest clients ever, we've moved about $4.5 million with her. And we're actually now doing another $1.5 million replacement from a product that we had before that we're refinancing their retirement because it had no income rider on it. And she told me she had $200,000. And now we're looking at, this is going to be probably close to $5 million, $5.5 million with this client in sales over the past, 10 years. Yep. And so you look at that and you go, wait a second. I mean, everybody knows what we make in comp. That tells you just $5 million just from that one client, what we did for them. But more importantly, they keep coming back to me when they run into issues or concerns because they know I'm going to have the right answer for them. So, I think really that wraps it up. I mean, this was a good talk. So,
I want to summarize it real quick.
Oh my gosh, of course you do.
How do you win cases where there's competition? So I have 3 things for you to take away as a summary. Number 1, know your products inside and out. Number 2, know your competition's options inside and out. And then number 3, don't be afraid to push back against your client's incorrect ideas that the alternative option is somehow better than what you're doing. Bring clarity, bring truth. And we did a whole podcast on this, Chad, called why the nice agent typically doesn't get the deal. And it's, you think, I'm being nice by just letting the client say whatever they want and I go along with it. No, you're killing your business if you do that. You have to be able to shoot straight with people and bring truth into it. So those are the 3 things.
I would add one more to that. I would add one more. Know your client.
One more?
Know your client. Yeah, because you have to be able to, if I have a single female that just lost her husband, you have to be so compassionate and calm and reassuring for that lady. If you have a guy that's very aggressive, that thinks he knows everything, you have to know how to handle that. So you have to know your client as well.
That's really good. And that's, truth be told, the whole basis of the sale anyways, is that we've gotten to know that individual to the point that, hey, we actually have a solution to a problem that they have. So yeah, I mean, that's the heartbeat of the sale from the beginning.
Well, I'm probably going to be on these pretty indefinitely now. I'm pretty much back. We're living in our new home now and still trying to deal with some other things, as you know, Caleb. I mean, we got to talk to the sheriff the other day. That was an interesting conversation, but now it's another game. So It's good to be back with you, man.
We're glad to have you back, Chad.
Okay. You have a good day.
You too.